Hello, hello. We are on episode 25, Tearing into Time Warp. How's everybody doing today? Kyle, how are you today? Episode 25. Been doing it for 25 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, Kyle is working on Time Warp, and today we're going to kind of do a deep dive into Time Warp and see all the different things we need to do to make this a fun playing game as it should be. But first, some housekeeping is our free shipping, free domestic shipping. It's our 24-hour code for orders over $99. The code for today is PT-TIMEBOMB. We chose Time Bomb because their Time Warp slogan is the Profit Time Bomb. It's a weird slogan. It could be positive or negative. But when I think of Time Bomb, I think of like a bad explosion. Like, oh, it's a ticking time bomb. So, but oh, wait. Oh, sorry, Kyle. I had you muted because I was scared. So no one got to hear you. History lesson. Kyle had a history lesson for us.
No, it was just it's just funny because like when you look at like the marketing slogans for games, like at one point they go from like generally it's all about how much money they're gonna make the operator, right? It's like this game is gonna make you all sorts of money. It's a profit explosion.
Yep.
This one's a time bomb.
And beyond that, we wanted to, again, remind everyone to slowly migrate their way to Twitch. Some of you guys are still on YouTube. Some of y'all are still on Facebook. Soon we will only be doing our Twitch broadcasts. So it's a free account. You get it. Click follow on twitch.tv/Marco Pinball. And
yep. Following is different.
Add so much cool, more interactive stuff.
And following is different than subscribing. Remember, if you hit, it's like, oh, I want to subscribe to Marco, and it's like, give us some money. Following will follow us. Subscribing will give us a small bit of a tip and give you some neat little perks, but you do not need to subscribe to continue being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's talking. What are you guys all talking about? Jumping to the left. Do you know the jumping to the left, step to the right?
Is that a time bomb?
I don't know. You guys lost me there.
Yeah, what's going on here?
Okay, and then we're gonna try a new segment today. Bear with me. It should work. But we're going to do a product spotlight. So the text for this product spotlight, let me move this over here so I can read it. It's good stuff. All right. Kyle, get ready. You don't have to hold up the product yet. We'll cut to the graphic and then come back to you.
Okay, you just tell me when you need me to do something.
Spotlight. All right, so this is the text. This rugged ABS plastic beverage butler prevents the seismic side effects of shivering machine situations from sloshing sloppy squirts of spilled soda, shakes, suds, sangria, sarsaparilla, seagrams, or other satiating solutions surrounding your sensational silver ball spectacle from saturating your pinball systems.
Wow. That was amazing.
Oh, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Oh, there he is.
new.
All right, let's zoom in on Kyle a little bit for his highlight. All right.
That whole amazing bit of poetry there was to describe this rad, the cup holder.
Oh no.
Keep losing me. Oh, there I am. Hey. The cup holder, which is really neat and innovative. It is a 2-piece cup holder with a base that will mount to the leg of your pinball machine, and a cup that holder that could be moved from game to game, or permanently affixed using some hardware that I had here a minute ago, but I can grab it. There are 2 big Phillips head screws that can attach this thing down if you want to keep it in place, but I think the neat, innovative bit of this system is the fact that the base of the cup holder is detachable from the leg itself. So say you have a lot of pinball machines, and you have 5 friends and you have 10 games, you could buy base plates for all your games and have a cup holder for people to bring their beverage with them from game to game. It's pretty innovative. It's pretty rad. It's large. It has cutouts for a coffee mug or a high-handled coffee mug. So you should be able to fit most size cups in here. I could fit this seltzer water cup quite nicely, or even a large beer cup that is empty. It's pretty cool. I think this is something that I will definitely be using on the couple games that I have at home, so I can stop putting my cups of beer on the game itself. The mounts are universal, so you could either mount them this way, right, with the cup holder facing away from you, or it could be mounted the other way if you wanted it in front, which, sorry, let me change my angle of attack here. You could mount it to the front, so, you know, I guess in some arcades this is probably a better way to do it because you have more, less side-to-side room and a little more front room. The neat thing about this product is too, though, is you can purchase it with a totally flat cup holder piece as well. So this is not ideal for mounting to like a pinball leg per se, but if you had a video game or something that does not have legs, you could mount it flat up against the coin door using the carriage bolts that attach that thing. Obviously, you wouldn't want to put it right under the start button, but it is a pretty lovely universal product. So these are $20 for the cup holder and the base plate. We stock both. We probably will end up selling more of the 45-degree ones to you pinball fans, but eventually, soon, we will have just the base plates available as well. So you could stock up on both and outfit your games. I definitely think the removability is the neatest thing to me. I've operated games in breweries and in bars for a long time, and these things get disgusting. So it is nice to be able to take them off, put them in the wash, and then put them back in the game. There are spots in this cup holder too that will allow you to drill drainage holes. So, if you're using these at home and you don't want condensation or beer dripping all over your nice floors, you don't need holes. But if you wanted to put holes in them like I would, there is provisions to do so inside. So very versatile. That's what I like about this product. Was that a good sales pitch?
That was awesome.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess I need to switch my career from pinball fixing to marketing now.
That worked. It was pretty smooth. We had a few hiccups, but yeah, that's our new pin buddy, our Cantraption.
The Cantraption. Yeah, you can thank the wonderful description that is written for this item to our the big boss, the man behind Marco. He has a way with words and is the punniest person I've ever met. So read the whole thing. It's kind of funny.
You can find a lot of cool Easter eggs on our websites and our products. If you ever actually take the time to read the product descriptions, a lot of times there's this, beautiful pinball poetry going on in there.
Yeah, pinball poetry.
Hopefully
That's definitely
to
it.
make you smile, not to confuse you, but to give you a little chuckle for your very stressful days. Anyway, PinTech Live. We're working on Time Warp. Kyle, what are you doing?
I spent all morning rebuilding all of the pop bumpers except for one. So we can do that again. I realize we have definitely rebuilt pop bumpers on this show before, but we also did that with our old camera equipment, which was pretty poor. I'm not going to mess with this anymore. This thing is kind of blown out. The game is really clean, but it definitely is needing some TLC. A lot of the post holes are kind of stripped out, so I'm going to be using, or probably off camera, but I'll be using the handy dandy stick to fill the holes so we can have more meat to grab onto. And
what is that for?
To alleviate concerns, we were able to find in our warehouse of pinball amazingness banana flippers. So we will be able to reinstall the banana flipper onto the game where they belong. Unfortunately, the actual plastic covers are no longer available. Hopefully we'll be able to come up with a solution to maybe 3D print some and see if we'll be able to get some that are strong enough to hold up to the flipper force. But we do have some of the shaft and shoes. We do have a couple of these, and this game is absolutely deserving of its correct flippers, being one of two. So
that was a brown banana.
Oh, well, you have to put the covers on, of course. Hold on.
That's cool. Did everyone see the Demolition Man with banana flippers that Brian sent to us last week? That was funny.
That's pretty funny.
More banana flippers on things.
I don't remember if it was at California Extreme or if it was at one of the Pinagogos or the Golden State Pinball Festival. But there was someone, we put some banana flippers onto a Attack from Mars, and that was very amusing. So it's definitely fun to mess around with this stuff. But yeah, this is exciting. This game needs the right flippers. So you spoke and we were able to dig this stuff up. So what I wanted to do was go over pop bumpers again. It's not the most exciting thing. It is also something that I see a lot of people kind of nervous to get in and redo. So what we have here, I might bring the small camera in to really focus on this, but we have a pop bumper bracket that is very bustified. This guy here. Do you want to bring the small camera up in the small view, Emoto?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, is it not working? Okay, let's not wheel with it right now. Mr. Cameraman, can we zoom in on this guy?
Plugged in? Oh, hold on, I just got it to work.
Oh. Okay, well, we'll have two views of this pop bumper bracket. The pop bumper brackets on Willliams games had an internal coil stop. So it is part of the bracket itself. And this one definitely broke at one point, and someone expertly welded it back together, but that's not good enough for me. We're going to replace it. Here's a new bracket that is unbroken. The neat thing, I'm trying to see which camera is which on the screen right now. The nice thing, I'll come close. It's funny though, Willliams did not change the flipper bracket for many decades. The pop bumper bracket. This thing is the same unit that is used on Time Warp in the earlier games, all the way up until, I get Cactus Canyon Episode 1, etc. So if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? But yeah, I don't know. Any questions? We're going to take this thing apart. We're going to put a new body, base, skirt, lamp socket, hopefully not a rod and ring because I'm actually out of them. Generally, we won't replace rod and rings if they don't need to be. But these ones, we'll come close again. These guys are very pitted and gross. The plating definitely started to come off of these guys. And again, they're cheap, so we might as well replace these nasty ones that we have with a new one. So hopefully this one's not gross.
Nice. Oh, wait, before you put down the playfield, Kyle.
Okay.
Now would be a perfect time for you to take Internet Pinball Database.
Oh, yeah, I was supposed to talk about that. I got a very nice email from Jay Strafford at the Internet Pinball Database thanking me for telling people to take pictures, but we need to say thank you for sending the photos into Jay. That website needs new photographs that need to be updated in modern resolutions, and we're very appreciative for you putting in the effort to do that. But yes, that is my job now, is every time I work on one of my games or pull it out, I'm going to pull them out, light it well, and take photos of the art, the underside of the playfield in multiple segments, and a full segment, right? So we can really get good detailed photos from every angle. Nowadays, when people are literally pulling pinball machines out of garbage cans and barns, a lot of these things aren't complete. And having photos of where things go is very important. So do your duty. I'm going to Uncle Sam y'all right now. Do your duty. Send some photos in. Well lit, good resolution.
Yeah, for example, Time Warp,
Here.
They have good reference photos, but it's only 480 by 360 pixels. So as you can see, Kyle's going to take a nice wide shot. And now, that resolution is probably close to the 1920 by 1080. Of course, I stayed in video terms. But.
Jay thought that I was taking pictures with a DSLR. I was like, nope, it's just a Google Pixel 2.
Smartphones are awesome. Yeah, the Google Pixel is a great phone. Pretty much everyone, you have an awesome camera right in your pocket, and use it. And again, as PinTech Live homework, if you submit new photos to the ipdb.org database, send us some type of proof, confirmation, send us a picture, show us the confirmation screen of uploading it, whatever you want to do to show us and prove to us that you have submitted your homework to them, and we'll send you some swag as a thank you.
Yes,
so
a large
thank you.
Send me an
email at marcotv@marcopinball.com with your proof that you submitted new photos to ipdb.org, and we will send you some swag as a thank you.
And as Emoto knows, I am a terrible photographer, and I have a very bad sense of
You've been getting better.
Perception and where things should be lined up. But I know that Jay was asking me to make sure that the photos are, centered, right? Like, try not to cut this part of the playfield off. Try to take a photo where you can get a good view in the whole thing. If you don't have the ability to light your photos super well, like we do here in the studio, you can brighten things up in Photoshop a little bit, but try not to do it in like a dark basement or something where there's a bunch of shadows. Take complete, what if you were trying to repair a game and trying to figure out where something went, how would you want it to look, right? If you couldn't look at this drop target bank, but you really needed to figure out how it went together, think about the way you're going to get the most effective photo possible. So I definitely know he's appreciative, and I'm appreciative of y'all too, so thank you. So yeah, I'm noticing, now I've been working on this game from this side like all day long, and now I'm over here, and I see all sorts of screws that are loose, and this thing needs some love. So let's do a pop bumper though.
Let's do it.
When we do this pop bumper, we are going to be also replacing the lamp socket with one of these guys. This is on the product highlight thing, isn't it, Emoto? The light socket?
Yes, it should be.
I don't know. We were having some goofy stuff with the system yesterday, so I wasn't able to make an order, but this is some standard pop bumper stuff, right? If you type in, wire lead socket, this will come up. These are super, super handy. The original pop bumper sockets, let me pull one out of the garbage because that's where they all belong. The original ones used bayonet-based bulbs. Geez, it doesn't want to come out. There it goes. And they're made of like stamped steel, kind of. They loosen up a lot over time, and bulbs will jiggle loose. So you'll notice a lot of games will have pop bumpers that like jiggle on and off, and the lights wiggle a lot, and they're bad. They're also kind of difficult to route too because they're made with this steel, so you have to bend this wire stock to get them to fit. It's annoying. The wires make it a lot easier, so into the garbage can it goes. The first thing that we're going to do is we'll work underneath the game. So the first thing we'll do is loosen the pop bumper from the body, from the playfield, etc. For that, on this game, we need I should probably stand on this side. For this, we need a 5/16 nut driver. The top end of the playfield's already stripped. The cap is off. I'm going to loosen the rod and ring from the pop bumper yoke.
If you have a spot to put your tabletop C920,
yeah,
that camera's back up and running.
It's going to be sitting down into the playfield, but unless... Oh, hey, there's a Marco's stool. Hold on. Let's see if we can get creative here.
We want all the angles.
Let's see. This fits... Oh, hey, look at that multi-purpose stool here. All right, check it out. Is this okay? Is this... I'll switch that camera around.
But I don't wanna.
You just asked for it.
That's awkward.
Well, while you're figuring it out, I'm just going to finish unscrewing these nuts here.
I like this angle. It's like the way I would look at a playfield, like, because I'm so short.
All right, so they're elastic stop nuts, so they are going to take a little bit of force to back off. Then we have to loosen up the pop bumper bracket from the playfield. They're installed using something called I think they're called a shark bolt, but that's what I've always been. That's how I've always referred to them. It's a bolt with a flat top that has two fins that come off the side, but then it's threaded. So what they do is they have holes in the playfield, and you will pound this shark nut, or shark bolt rather, into the playfield. Those fins off to the side keep the bolt from rotating when you're tightening it. Maybe we'll be able to see them once I get them off.
What do you pound it in with? Just a
hammer.
Mallet or?
Yeah, a hammer and like a punch or something. I actually was a bad boy and I broke one on this pop bumper over here. That is one thing I can't stress enough. When you are working on pop bumpers, be very, very gentle with how much torque you're applying to this stuff. Elastic lock nuts kind of have like a phantom tight effect. Once you get that bolt onto the elastic bit of the nut, it is just pretty loose. So you're going to want to make sure that once you feel it actually tighten, not to really torque it down. You will snap things. That's the number one reason to replace a rod and ring, is because you snapped the threaded end off. Someone has worked on this one at some point because, you zoom in on this, Ryan? The pop bumper yoke broke. Someone welded it back together. This is real common. But this thing is supposed to face the other direction. One of the nuts was missing on that shark bolt, and the fact that this thing broke. So, and I'm dropping things. So this one's kind of a mess. So you're just going
to replace it altogether?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of replacing on this guy.
Nice.
So once we have this done, we're going to move this out of the way. The next step is we need to unsolder the lamp socket from the wires that feed it juice. I know for a fact that these lamp sockets and the pop bumpers on this game are feature lamps, or a controlled lamp. The computer can tell it when to turn on or off. This is kind of hard to see. I'll bring the little camera up.
All right.
We've got one end here. Well, one end of that lamp socket here, which is fed by this yellow and blue wire. We have the other end right up here on this side. So I'm looking to see if I can show it right, which is actually the end of a diode. So the way they wired this up is a little goofy, but the wire is soldered to this solder tab, which is attached to a diode, which is then soldered to the lamp socket. This was kind of really only done on early Willliams games. But we do need to remove it. I'm going to use a small screwdriver, which will help me loosen the lamp socket from the wire that is soldered to it. So what I'm doing is we're just heating both up, and I'm going to try to use this screwdriver to kind of pry the lamp socket away once the solder breaks. And there it goes.
Oh, nice. That's a nice little tip.
I'm going to try to do this while stretching my soldering. Actually, you know what? That's dumb.
Oh, Pin Daddy said those screws are called fin shank screws.
Okay, yeah, a shank screw. That's the proper term.
What did you say? Shark fins?
Shark bolts.
Like shark fin shank.
This has a lot of solder, so let's do this real carefully. This is a pro tip. This is something I haven't been doing all day, but we've got solder, a big solder blob on this side of the diode. What cameras are we using? Maybe the big camera will zoom in.
Yeah,
we got a big old solder blob right here.
Let it focus.
Maybe it'll focus. What we don't want to do, even if we can't see it, what we don't want to do is heat this solder up and have gravity do its inevitable job of dropping it downward, right? If we drop a solder blob down, it's going to short out a switch, it's going to short out a lamp socket or something, so I'm going to use my, we can zoom out now. I'm going to use my solder sucker. I'm going to heat it up and suck it up. This is not just used for board repair, it's pretty handy. So we'll get this solder nice and molten, and we will try to capture it before it falls. Got one bit. Let's do it again just for thoroughness.
So say if you're not as good as catching it before it falls, maybe put like a cloth underneath, something else that might catch it if you don't suck fast enough.
Absolutely. A cloth is a good way to do it. Oops, I forgot to get it all the way out. The only issue with a cloth, it's not really that big of an issue, but if you do, if you are using a cloth and you forget that the cloth has a solder blob on it, don't go back to using that cloth for novice or anything like that, because that's a really good way to start scratching your playfield up, is using a cloth with a dried blob of solder.
Don't throw it in the laundry either. That'd probably be bad.
All right. Get this sucker.
Oh, they made you into an angel emote on the chat.
Who did? Oh, thanks, Steve. Man, Dalton has been really good at that. He's been putting my face in all sorts of stuff.
Hey, Woof, welcome.
We're going to straighten out the lamp socket here. This one's going to be kind of difficult because it's still it's at a goofy angle underneath the diode. I'm going to bring the small camera up here. We need to get.
For all of you just joining, we are working on the pop bumpers right now on Time Warp.
Yes.
In case you know.
We'll try to force this out from underneath the diode, because what we're going to try to do here is, if we're lucky, we don't even need to lift a staple, and we're going to be able to solder our flexible wire leads straight to these wires without lifting staples and needing to secure the wires, which is very important on pop bumper sockets. You don't want one of these wires getting stray and shorting up against the pop bumper socket, or the pop bumper bracket. It's kind of messy. If you really wanted to do this clean, you could remove the pop bumper switch, but I am lazy and I am not going to do that right now.
You're not lazy. You need to stop using that as an excuse.
I'm going to move the small camera real quick. I'm going to set the playfield down. When I set the playfield down, I will be resting the playfield on the pop bumper brackets on the front end of the playfield, or the cabinet here. So making sure this is lined up. And this is a good way to be able to work on the playfield, again, being very gentle, while without having it buried in the back. Just be careful, right? You don't want to bend those pop bumper brackets or do any damage. So rod and ring comes out. It's losing its coating a teeny bit. I would replace this if I had another one. I might have another one in my toolbox and I could dig for it, but not that big of a deal. This isn't a game that's going to get played a ton. I don't like using that reasoning a lot, though. Even though this isn't like the world's most popular game, even though this isn't like the world's nicest time warp, you gotta respect your patient here, right? And also throw bolts around like I do.
You should get the best.
Uh-oh. Hey, where'd that guy go?
It's a profit time bomb.
Yeah, it's a profit time bomb. You gotta respect the fact that it's a time bomb.
Yeah, don't let it explode, or you want it to explode. See, that's what I can't figure out. Do we want it to explode?
Yeah, we want it to explode into profit.
Sometimes explosions are good.
We want the coin box to be so full that it explodes.
Okay, so the pinball machine just explodes with quarters.
Where the heck did that screw go? I'm all screaming at the camera, and then this thing flies out, and now it's gone. We'll find it.
All right, show's over.
Yeah, show's over. Hey, remember that time that I dropped something and it just happened to be like, oh, there it was. It was like right under my feet. That was fun. Okay.
Yes, we have the pop bumper brackets. Let's see if we can get a link for Colin Baxter for pop bumper brackets.
Yeah, it's like B-7417. I didn't remember that off my head. Steve actually said that. Thank you. But I remembered the B.
He probably remembered it off of it.
Oh, absolutely, he did.
B as in boy. Bravo.
So this is our mess, right?
That's the old one?
Yeah.
Ew, it looks crunchy.
Yes, that's the thing, right? That's why we're replacing this, is that it's crunchy and brittle. A lot of times you'll see, I can't get this all the way off because the pop bumper socket has a bunch of solder down here that's forcing me to not be able to remove the base. But these get brittle and they start cracking a lot. These pop bumper, this is the skirt. Let's use the new pieces because they look nicer. The reasons you would generally do a top-end pop bumper rebuild is because your pop bumper body has a big old crack in it somewhere. And it's busted and it's got a hole and you can see the guts. Or your skirt has a bunch of chips in the outside edge of the actual skirt, right? This is what the ball hits every time the pop bumper is activated. They can get bad. This one's not that bad, but you know, while we're here, let's just do it, right? These parts are very cheap. It takes a lot of time, and you're not going to want to go in and do this again at another point while we're taking it apart. It doesn't take many more steps past removing the pop bumper bracket to put new, fresh parts on top. While it's off, it is a good idea to take your Novus and clean up. This game does have factory pop bumper Mylar platters, which is just a round piece of Mylar with cutouts for the pop bumper parts to go through, which is great. It really does protect the finish of the game around the pop bumpers. You'll notice, or maybe if you have a couple games, or definitely a couple old games.
Looks like Kyle needs a new Novus bottle.
It's a sign of accomplishment when you actually use one all the way through. Come on. Whatever. There's enough on there. You'll notice, like, especially if you have some older games, around the pop bumpers, you've generally got a lot of areas that are worn down to wood. These platters make a difference. If any of y'all remember, if any of you all were here 24, 23 episodes ago, I installed new pop bumper platters onto my roller games when we rebuilt the pop bumpers.
Yep, I believe that was episode 2 or episode 3.
Wow.
We have a question from the chat saying, why is it sometimes called a wafer?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I call a shank bolt a shark bolt, so that's kind of, you know.
Shark fin.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different ways to refer to all different sorts of parts, which is fun. I try not to correct nomenclature all the time, but it's fun to have different ways to say different things. I put the small camera right above the pop bumper hole.
Got him.
But we've got a few parts that live on the top end. We have our base, which is what sits down into the play field. We have our, I guess I could show them on this camera too. We have our base. Sorry, switch back.
Yep.
We've got the spring that the pop bumper, what's it called? Skirt rides on. We have the skirt here, and then we have the body. So,
Nice.
the way this goes together, if you look here at the game itself, right, we have two holes that are independent here. This is what the rod and ring rides through. Up and down. We have two holes here in the wood, which is where the screws mount the dang thing to the playfield. And we've got these little indentations here where the lamp socket goes through. So there is a way that this whole contraption needs to be lined up to be correct. So if you see the way these things line up into this hole, we've got these cutouts every 90 degrees that are where, you know, these holes will generally be drilled, right? Some games might have the rod and ring going up and down this way, or they might be at an angle, right? So this is set up to accommodate every flavor, if you will. But the pop bumper body only mates to the base like in 180 degree intervals, right? You've got these small little nipples here, and then you've got fatter bases. And these small guys fit into these receptacles on the base itself, right? Okay. So the other thing though is there's only every 180 degrees a slot for where the rod and ring will go through. So you need to make sure you have everything lined up correctly to be able to put it together straight.
So you could accidentally put it in the wrong way.
I could put it together totally backwards, right? So you could put it together like this, put the skirt in, and then you could put, it's off just a few degrees. You could put this on, and when you get here, you're like, all right, you know, oh wait, crap. I can't put the rod and ring through, right? We're gonna go straight down. So generally you're just a few degrees off and just gotta rotate it until you figure out where it needs to be.
Nice. And then you can really feel it line in perfectly. It looks
these things are in here pretty snug. But again, we'll put our skirt through, make sure that these small holes or the outermost holes are lined up for the rod and ring to go through, and then we could push the base in like this. And then we will take our the attachment screws, right, which went on these sides, and we could torque this thing in. It's kind of a good rule of thumb on anything to just not like go ham wild on one thing in regards to how tight you tighten things, right? So get it nice and snug, and then start the other one, and that'll ensure things like get lined up nice and straight, right?
Sure.
Get this guy in here. We could push on the skirt and see that it returns to center everywhere, so nothing's pinched weird. Now we will do our final torque. These don't need to be super tight. All right, I like it.
Nice.
At this point, we will be installing our lamp socket. You do need to, these are different. When you install these lamp sockets, let me get that nasty one from out of the garbage can one more time.
Yeah, I like the before and after.
Well, you'll see, right, like when you install these guys and they bottom themselves out into the pop bumper body, right? See how far down that sits? We will take a bayonet-based bulb, stick it in, and you can see that the bulb kind of ends right at the top of the body. I'm going to kind of put this camera down.
Yeah, let's get a leveled view.
Right here. You see how that kind of barely sticks above the body?
Mm-hmm.
When you do use these replacement sockets, sorry, I got to try to get this thing to sit back down again. It kind of wants to fall off the game. There we go. Let me get a bulb now, and you could see, when you do install these things, you do need to kind of finagle the socket to sit right. I always recommend, and I will be, we'll be using LEDs in these eventually, because remember, an incandescent bulb, the reason they light up is because you're turning electricity into a bright white piece of metal, right? And that emits light. They get hot. You can run into a situation where the this will touch the pop bumper cap, and you can make nastiness. So you see how this guy is kind of sitting up above the pop bumper here, compared to this guy, which is sitting pretty flush. Does that come through at all?
It's hard to tell. Maybe if you put your hand behind the pop bumper when you do it. Yeah. Okay. So we don't see a bulb in there.
Yeah, just barely. In this one, you do see a lot.
It's sticking out. It's sticking out too much. Right?
Yes. So it will touch the pop bumper cap. You can kind of get these things in there at a weird angle to make them sit further down. But if you're going to use this method, I do recommend replacing these things with an LED. That way you will never make a burn mark in your pop bumper caps. But
pop bumper caps are so pretty too. You don't want
these ones especially. The benefit though, again, is that with the large amount of vibrations that a pop bumper does, these things will never have the opportunity to come loose, and you'll never have to go in there and adjust them. They're a giant pain. Anyone who's ever tried to solve this issue probably understands what I'm saying. So.
Nice.
Anywho, we're going to switch back to under the playfield. I'm going to insert, actually I kind of need to move this back over, sorry. Going to give everyone all sorts of motion sickness. We're going to insert the wire lead pop bumper socket into this base, which is kind of an exercise in patience, but since this is the 5th one I've done today, kind of got it down. All right, sweet. Let's lift the game back up. So is everyone still following along? Did any of that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. You said yes. What about everyone else watching?
Everyone's agreeing.
Okay, good.
Everyone's agreeing. Yeah, LEDs would keep the pop bumpers from melting. It makes a lot of sense.
I mean, in all honesty, just replace every incandescent bulb in your pinball machine with a LED, right? It's just, do it tastefully if you want to make me really happy. Don't use a bunch of colors all over the place. If that's what you're into, go ahead and do it. But LEDs are just overall a much better solution when it comes to these games.
It's not just that it saves in energy and power, but it's also safer, it seems like.
Yeah, these plastics in this game, especially the ones in the back corners, are pretty warped, and that's from 40 years of incandescent light heat warping the plastics. At least, I guess what I always try to tell people is if you're apprehensive about using LEDs, just use them in the general illumination. That is really the best place for it, right? And generally, general illumination is underneath a pop bumper cap. Sometimes. This game, they are feature lights, so there is a little stipulation there. Anywho, this is where it gets interesting, and it's going to be a little bit harder to film because what I need to do is I need to figure out where and how to cut this wire socket to get it to attach to the lighting points, right? So this one's going to be pretty simple. I am going to cut this one and strip it about here and just solder it straight to that wire where my fingernail is. This one is going to be a little more, a little bit more of a pain. We are going to need to cut this one like relatively short, and then what we'll do is we'll try to wrap the actual wire inside around this wire a few times and solder it in. The other option is to just lay this thing down like this and solder it straight to the solder tab. The only reason I don't want to do that is you see how this is kind of crossing like this? That could impede the movement of the skirt, which will make for poor pop bumper action. You might say, well, why don't you just wrap it around this wire? Well, I could, but that also causes a rubber insulation versus wire. Actually, no, I can't. I'm sorry. This has to be on this side of the diode. If I attach this thing to the other side of the diode, we wouldn't have a functioning lamp. So it's just, you know, that's how I'm going to do it. If I had a staple gun, I could make it a little cleaner, but I've been working at it like this all day, and it's actually been quite successful. So give me a minute. This is not going to be the easiest part to film, so I apologize. But we'll try to give a good before and after. So this is a good time to ask questions if anyone has any questions so far.
Mike McHugh asked, does Marco sell singles or boxes of LEDs instead of a whole set for a machine? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think you can just type in LEDs on the search, or if you go to the lamps section.
Let's see. So I'm going to try to cut this thing.
Lamps and LEDs.
This is difficult. I cut that a little long. I'm going to cut off a little excess wire. I stripped like a 2-inch section of wire. So I've exposed quite a bit, which will allow me to wrap it effectively around the end of that diode. Sorry about this.
Would you consider this an advanced installation?
The only reason that this is kind of advanced is because of the pop bumper socket. If you just needed to replace your the yokes on the pop bumper bracket, or like the actual pop bumper plunger, that's pretty easy, right? We're unscrewing the yoke, the rod and ring. We're unscrewing the bracket and taking it off. Replacing the body and the skirt, it's a little more advanced, but it requires this is a little more intermediate, right? It requires some basic soldering skills and understanding of where wires shouldn't touch. So this isn't advanced per se, but it's not the easiest or the most basic thing you could do on a pinball game, I guess. This is a rare, like a thing you definitely do need to learn to do if you have, an older game. And by older game, I mean like anything older than 10 years old. We have a second pinball location here in Columbia, South Carolina now. We had Bang Back, and now we have another arcade called Transmission Arcade. And I've been spending a lot of time in there trying to get their games ready to be on coin play. And I was working on the Whitewater, and the pop bumpers on that game are kind of nestled underneath some plastics and stuff. And that's still a new game to me, but in reality, it's like 30 years old. And man, those pop bumper skirts were just totally demolished. So any old Willliams game that you buy, any WPC game, probably needs this or will need something like this done in the future. A chewed up skirt sucks. It's ugly and it leads to bad pop bumper action, which is sad. So
yeah.
Don't be afraid, but this is probably more advanced than, this is definitely a bit more advanced than doing it on some of the more modern games for sure. So again, I could make this easier by removing the pop bumper switch, but I'm lazy.
Oh, right. Okay. That switch is just kind of in the way, floating a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely want to set yourself up for success whenever you're doing something like this, but at the same time, you kind of don't need to remove that. I'm going to strip this thing even shorter. Again, though, I've learned this through every single mechanical thing I've ever worked on. Sometimes the perceived easy way, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to take that off. That's going to take too much time or some.
Yeah.
The perceived easy way makes everything take a lot longer. So if it's more comfortable for you to work without this switch here, just do it. It doesn't take that much more time to get it back in and adjust the pop bumper once you're done. So
nice. A few questions from the chat.
Cool.
Colin Baxter asked, oh, this is from last week. Do we have any other board issues from last week, or did the 40 pin fix it?
40 pin fixed it.
Yay.
The game actually played. After the cameras shut off, I did start a game and it did work. But the performance was just very lacking, right? This is all old, worn out stuff. So it'll be a lot better once we tighten some things up. Let me get another tool here.
Sure.
There's still things I need to address. Like, I have not adjusted the battery holder yet. We gotta give that battery holder a permanent solution by extending the harness a little bit longer, as well as mounting it permanently. We need to, affix it to the head. Other than that, yeah, no, we're pretty good. I think I will end up replacing the filter capacitor on the power supply, though. I think that's going to be a necessity, just for prolonged operation, right?
Yeah,
you want to get in there once and do it.
And Black Cat Pinball 1 asked, I know most old Bally's need an adapter to get the LEDs not to flicker. Is it the same on Willliams?
I'm going to admit that I am not super familiar with the older Willliams games. I remember when we first started doing this, I told everyone that I really hate these old games and I did not want to work on them. But now I have so many to work on, I kind of need to. I don't remember. I think that these games will work if you use non-ghosting LEDs. You don't need the adapters because it's the difference between using a transistor to activate the lights on the lamp matrix versus using a SCR, which is what Bally used. SCR stands for Silicon Controlled Rectifier. I do not know what that is. I'm not going to try to explain it, but I know that that's what the difference is. So.
Danigel asked, have you found some weird Italian pinball for your collection yet?
Honestly, I haven't really been looking for more games to add to the stable right now, but I am always looking for weird Italian pinball. Actually, my friends at Transmission, they have a few pinball playfields that they've been giving to local artists to paint and then turn into tables. And these are, they're worn out playfields, but they have a Pinball Champ 82 playfield. And if you've never played Pinball Champ 82, it's an old Zaccaria game, and it is freaking awesome. And I don't know why I brought that up, but it's old in Italian.
That's awesome. Oh, look, Nitrog on Twitch. He's going to find out about our new international shipping rates.
Heck yeah.
He was asking, what tool would you recommend to make or fix connectors and wires so that it covers the majority of pinball?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, you really want one of the Molex crimping tools that we sell to use the crimp and stuff connectors for replacing your crummy IDC connectors. What is it? Can someone link that part number in the chat? It's like 77-CTW or something. I don't remember, but it's invaluable.
Yeah. I know when you brought up it would be nice to have a repair starter kit, and that is in the long list of products to get out there.
Yeah, that would be fun to do. Just like a basic or an elevated toolkit that includes a little bit more than the, just screwdrivers or something.
One. I need it. My tools are all over the place.
It's a little sloppy, but it's not going anywhere. Put that small camera out. This thing's tight, and it is soldered to that side of the diode. This one is soldered to where it needs to be. The goal is, again, we're trying to make sure that this thing can't touch anything else, right? We don't want that coming loose. So I'm kind of satisfied with that. I need to...
Nice. We have a few more questions before you go on to the next part.
Oh, keep going.
Kevin Brumfield on Facebook said, I have a pop on my Nugent, Ted Nugent, where the skirt is leaning down on the right side, so I get no action on that side. What could be going on here?
Check the switch. You might have a misadjusted pop bumper. The spoon, this component is called the spoon. And the skirt rides the spoon. So when I touch the skirt, it rides up the side of the actual spoon, which then closes the switch. This is hard to get an angle on because it's flat against all the components. But what likely has happened is you might have a hole in the spoon. It's very common for the skirt to wear a hole dead in the center, which will keep the thing from moving much or be forced in one position. You might need to just adjust this, but that's probably what it is. I'd recommend checking out the pop bumper switch before you do anything else. That's the simplest and easiest thing that could be holding it up. Otherwise, it's disassemble the pop bumper and see if the spring is collapsed or broken, but that's not likely.
It's good advice. A couple more questions.
Yeah.
Now everyone's waking up in the chat right now. It's great.
Good.
So back with Nitrog on Twitch asks, so you can always replace all the IDC connectors with Molex?
Yes, but don't just do that. You're going to create more problems than you're going to solve. I hate IDC connectors. They're evil. They're good for manufacturing, but bad for longevity. You have to remember, these games were not supposed to last as long as they have, right? So again, easy to put together, bad for continued usage. What I find is a lot of people are like, I see this. I don't really participate in the Facebook like pinball repair stuff because I don't have enough time to answer all these people's questions. But I redid every pin on my Bally and now this isn't working. It's like, well, here's the problem, right? You didn't address the actual problem. You didn't pinpoint the actual problem. Replace things when you need to. So yes, if you have an IDC connector that's burnt or busted or a wire popped out, you want to replace it with a crimp and stuff terminal. But I do find that a lot of people create more problems than they solve when they just go like full like shotgun and replace everything. It's not necessary. So it's kind of like contradicting like answer, but that's the best way to address it, I think.
Nice.
And remember, there's two sizes, 0.156 and 0.100, which is the spacing of the pins away from each other. So make sure you're replacing them with the correct size.
Oh, Colin, I think, was responding about the side pop bumper question. He said, if the spring is off, couldn't that cause it to be in its side?
I mean, it depends on the spring, but generally the pop bumper spring under the skirt isn't busted, right? I brought 5 new pop bumper skirt springs, but you don't really need to put new ones in unless they're busted, and all these were fine, not super compressed or anything like that. I would bet, again, Nugent is a very old game, and Nugent has been played a bazillion times, and that pop bumper spoon's probably never been replaced. So that's where I would check first. The spring absolutely could cause that, but that's the simplest and most likely issue. To me, that's where I'd start. Everyone approaches problems differently, and that's what makes this fun.
You're doing a great job, by the way, of juggling multiple conversations at once. I'm over here confused.
That's just like, how fast my brain works.
Straight into it.
This thing, let me just take it off and we could see. Again, someone did a good job of trying to get this thing back together, right? But it's not square. I can see the top of this coil retainer is sitting up at like a 4 or 5 degree angle off of the coil itself. So when this is not 90 degrees if we were to put like a protractor on that. So is that causing like all sorts of problems? No, but we might as well replace it.
Yeah, replace it. It looks gross.
Since the yoke was also repaired poorly, when I flipped this thing upside down, it just fell apart. So that's why the plunger and spring and yokes aren't in there. I am going to unscrew these 2 screws, which hold the retainer in. And then for folks that are a little bit more advanced, I'm going to give a pro tip, or Kyle's pro tip. Steve, would you mind popping the Gottlieb pop bumper yokes, those part numbers, into the chat for me? This is very common. This is way more common on older games, or newer games that have much more powerful pop bumpers, but this yoke cracks right down the center.
Oh, sure.
You can buy a brand new one. Will it take 15, 20, 30 years for it to break? Yes, but it will break. It's a bad design. When I replace these, if this was my game or if this was a newer game that was more powerful, I would replace it with the Gottlieb pop bumper yoke. You need to replace them as a pair. You need to replace the metal yoke and the fiber yoke at the same time. But this thing has this 90-degree, curving brace down here, right? That keeps this thing very strong compared to this, which is very weak. So again, if this was like a new WPC game or something like that, we would replace it with this. Since this is an old Willliams game that doesn't have super powerful pop bumpers and is not going to get played a ton, we can use this. But the price difference between these parts is negligible, if any. So I would suggest only stocking these. You'll never have to do this again. So I'm not using them though. These can stay in my toolbox. for now, we will just use the regular Willliams parts because at the end of the day, they lasted 40 years. So it'll be fine. But again,
we have another quick random question.
I like those.
It's not random.
Okay.
That's why I interjected. But we would like to know, because I don't know. The new skirts have a small triangle. Is this to prevent a ball not to get stuck on the top, or what is the triangle notch for on the skirt?
The skirts that have a triangle on them are a Gottlieb design, and they are for Gottlieb games. Willliams never used those skirts. Neither did Bally. Only Gottlieb did.
Nice.
But yes, that is what that triangle is there for. If a ball hit the pop bumper in just the right way, or if it was, just or poorly adjusted, that skirt would encourage the ball to roll to one side or the other. Can you use that skirt on any game? Yes, but in the pinball concours d'elegance, you would lose points. Does it make a difference? No, but just that's for a Gottlieb game.
Why did only Gottlieb do it?
Because Gottlieb did a lot of things right. But they also did a lot of things poorly. I don't know. That's just how the engineers did it. We are going to put a new coil sleeve in. I got coil sleeves that were a little too long, so I am going to cut them down using my flush cutters. This is totally kosher. You can do this. It's not that big of a deal. Generally, I will do this with a bench grinder because it makes really fast work of it, but I'm just taking 1/3 of an inch off of this thing. Generally, this doesn't matter, but in this assembly, if the coil sleeve is a teeny bit too long, we run the risk of this assembly, right, the yoke, not being able to travel far enough down if it was hitting and smashing against the top of the coil sleeve. So this is one assembly where the length of coil sleeve kind of matters. We are going to make sure to insert the coil sleeve. Well, make sure you trim it better than I did. All right. We're going to make sure we insert. We lost our signal wire. It broke off of the coil, but no big deal. We're going to insert the coil sleeve with the flange on the bottom. It is always in your best interest to mount the diodes away from a coil stop. The extra vibration you get from the diode being against the coil stop can cause them to break. So it's just it's a style thing and helpful for long-lasting mechanisms. Oh, no, I didn't. Here it is. To get this back together, we are going to assemble it as so. Sorry, I'm getting all close again.
Coming in close.
We're going to get the metal yoke, stick that through the plunger, which has a big old groove in it. We're going to face, they each have openings, right? So these sandwich together like that. Sorry, you have to see my face all close. You sandwich them together, so one opening goes from the left, the other opening goes from the right. The fiber one goes on the bottom, the metal one goes on top. The spring sits underneath them. The metal yoke faces the inside of the coil bracket, or the coil retainer, so we're going to slip the bottom of the plunger in and carefully do this, which I can't show on camera because I'm struggling. One sec. This thing might actually be not square. It's actually kind of, it's bent a little too far in. I wasn't expecting that to be the problem. Let me see if I can struggle with this thing to get it on. One sec. We're going to use...
That's not the new parts. That's a part from Time Warp that you were just...
Yeah, this is an old part that is being reused on the bracket that is all cattywampus. So this is probably not going to be the case in your game, but you can buy these new, and it is good to have them around. They do break, but again, that's a more modern game problem. These are a little weaker. And you want your assembly to look like this. You've got the yoke, the metal yoke facing, with the opening facing this way, the fiber yoke facing this way, with the spring in between.
Nice.
And now we will mount this into the frame. get it all nice and tight. It screws in from the back using number 6 screws, which I put somewhere where I thought it would be easy to find them. Got to kind of line these holes up. And again, you're going to want to start these by hand and just thread them so they won't fall out.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit like that.
Oh yeah, see, look, where's your magnet bowl that you could be sitting right next to you while you work, and you just had the screws that you were working with ready?
I don't know.
To just grab.
I actually don't know where my magnet bowl went, and I have like 8 of them, so who knows. So what I'll do is we'll get those things started, and then what we want to do is compress the coil retainer and the coil together, right? We want this to be nice and tight. So this does the job of holding the coil in place. So we'll kind of pinch it together, and then we will start tightening the screws.
Is there any, like, can you go too tight?
Not really, because these screws are small, and you'll start rounding the heads out, which that one kind of is.
The pinching part, like.
No way to go too tight.
Further down.
But now we've got that nice. It will be easy enough to solder the trigger wire back onto the coil once it's all installed. So we'll just wait until that point. I'll leave it dangling like this. Going to make sure that the spoon is riding the skirt is riding the center of the spoon. It is. This time, or now, we'll get our ring and rod, come in from the top, insert it where it needs to be inserted, stick it through.
Oh yeah, so then we'll see little 2 prongs coming out.
Exactly. And then what I like to do when we're lining this up is, which camera are we on? Yeah, the big camera's good. We've got 3 stakes, right, where this is going to attach. But the ring and rod is kind of the most important. So what I'll do is I'll generally compress, or I'll push the ring and rod all the way down against the skirt. And I will try to get the ring and rod around the yoke before I put it on the playfield. One thing I just noticed is there are supposed to be washers that go around between the yoke and the ring and rod, and this side did not have them. I'm going to bust out my nasty little box of hardware and see if I can find some good number 8, I think they are. Yeah, number 8 washers really quick. Give me 1 sec. There's one. That is acceptable. I think these just help distribute the force. So get those washers on there. So again, the washers go on the ring and rod before you stick the yoke through. Are they necessary? I don't know. An engineer put them there, and that engineer is way smarter than I am. So that's how I'm putting it back together.
Makes sense to me. Oh yeah, Steve Grimmel, that's a great invention. You should get a magnet bowl around your wrist, like a watch, like a magnet.
I should just put it on like a big old necklace, and then that way I can't lose it, right? And it's just right here all the time. My old auto shop teacher always used to do that. He'd be like, "Hey D, help me with this." And he's like, "Where's my glasses? I can't find my glasses." And he's like, "Dude, they're right here. They're right on top of your head." You're like, "Oh, okay." I feel like I'm turning into Mr. Dick now.
You are, because Midge and Roller Pinball made the comment that it's the magnet bowl is with that drill bit.
Hey,
Kyle lost a drill bit. It kind of flew out of the drill one episode many moons ago, and
yeah,
they'll never live it down.
But we also realized that drill sucked. It had like the world's worst chuck. And I think I'm looking at it right now. I hate that drill. Or maybe it was over there. I don't know where it went.
Don't hurt its feelings.
I'm going to blame it on the drill. It absolutely wasn't my fault.
Dan and Gel asked, is it good to have Loctite on screws on the pop bumper coil bracket?
I don't like using Loctite anywhere because Loctite is super, it's designed to make it so things can't be taken apart. One thing I have used before, and I do want to try doing again for something that's problematic, is clear nail polish. Clear nail polish is going to be sticky and keep things stuck together, but it is not chemically designed to make things inseparable. You know, there are like 3 different grades of Loctite, and one of them is impossible. One of them is a pain in the rear, and the other one is just a little bit less of a pain in the rear. And none of this should be a pain in the rear to take apart, but it also shouldn't vibrate apart. So I think that if I ever have I might try using clear nail polish. That's been recommended. I think John Robertson's at John's Jukes recommended that. And if he tells you anything, you listen, because he's way smarter than all of us.
We can make our own brand of Marco pinball polish.
Marco pinball clear nail polish Loctite.
Mark, I hope you're listening. We need pin polish.
So what I just did here was I carefully attached the ring and rod to the yokes using the elastic lock nuts, right? The number one reason you need to replace a ring and rod is because you use He-Man strength and you rip the threads off the ring and rod. That is the number one reason why they break. So generally, I'll get these things snug and I'll watch them tighten up, right? I'll watch the ring and rod slowly, kind of like, ow, you don't need to see the imagery, but you're watching for them to kind of get to the point where they're about to bottom out, get both sides nice and snug, and then again, we are going to turn it an eighth of a turn, just to verify that they're snug. The other reason why we don't need to use Loctite, I think whoever asked it was asking about the retainer screws. That's not that big of a deal. But what we're using here are the elastic lock nuts, right? And that nylon bit inside the nut really grabs and it makes a tight contact with the bolt that you're threading it onto, and that keeps them from backing off a little more than just a bare nut. Anyways. Now that we've got that attached, you want to make sure that you aren't pinching any wires underneath the pop bumper bracket. Verify that on all sides. We are good. This one was missing a bolt, or a nut rather, so I am going to fish out a number 8 elastic lock nut so we can make sure this thing is attached sturdily. And again, what we're doing here is we're tightening it down in stages, right? We're not going like full tightness on one and then full tightness on the next and then the next. We're going to get them all nice and snug and then finish the job. The last step here is going to be to adjust the switch. That is going to be hard to show, so maybe we will cut that, but I would like to set up the camera one day and do one of like Emoto's famous pin tips and have it like done on the bench, where we can get a good camera set up so you can see a good cross section of what's going on. But I guess the long and short of it, since this is going to be a video about pop bumpers, we want to make sure that the skirt has no dead zone, so the ball can strike the skirt from any side and reliably close the pop bumper switch, so you get good pop bumper action. It's the most exciting part of pinball. So what I'll do is I'll get my hands up here and I'll try to look. And right now, if I move the skirt, the bottom blade of the switch is moving right away. So I know that it's way too tight. There needs to be a gap. But you also have to make sure that there's not too little gap, right? You're like, oh, it's adjusted so tight. This is going to make for great action. What you'll find is that since pop bumpers are generally clustered together, if you adjust them too tight, the vibration of one pop bumper closing will fire another one. So you'll get like phantom pop bumper actuations, which is not ideal.
Oh yeah, it just keeps going.
Let's see. This is kind of it's a semi-exact process, but generally you can eye it pretty okay, but you're not really going to be able to dial it in 100% until you play the game and watch for the behavior of what's going on. I also just noticed that this game is missing a switchblade. The way that these old Willliams pop bumpers work is there are actually 2 switches. I think I could show it with the small camera if you want to switch to that one.
Yes.
All right. So you see we have one switch that's way high up here, kinda, that has the spoon attached to it, and then the yoke is holding up a second switch. Does that come through at all? You see that one opening and closing?
Ooh, that's a cool shot.
You see it?
Yes.
So what it is, right, is this upper one is going to activate the pop bumper. We've got the skirt that's going to close the spoon switch there. On these old Willliams games, it relies on an actual physical switch to close to actually score the points. So that upper switch is just activating and telling the computer to fire that transistor to make it go. But when the yoke falls and those 2 bottom switches make contact, that's what's actually scoring a point. Willliams was the only company to do that in the solid state era, I think. Maybe Gottlieb too, but Bally definitely did not do that. So there's a pro tip. But this one, the pop bumper we just did, is missing a blade. So it won't score at all. I'll need to get in there and replace the blade or the entire switch stack to make that work. It'll probably be easier just to replace the blade, so that's probably what I'll do.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But anyways, it's a lot better than it was before, that's for dang sure. We do need to, I need to solder that one wire back on the coil first, so at least we'll be able to watch all of them maybe work. So I'm going to do that real quick here. Strip off the end, reach for the soldering iron, and try not to drop it like I've already done once today. I'm going to solder with my left hand just to do it in hard mode. We are going to tin the tip of the iron, tin the wire itself. If I really wanted to get really pro at this, I would remove all the old solder from the coil lug, but I'm not gonna. Just gonna tack it back on. Get this thing nice and hot. I'm waiting for the solder to melt and get toasty on the coil. Then I'll introduce the tinned wire, melt them together, and then remove the heat. And then hold it nice and still. And bellissimo. It's nice.
Nice. You make that look so easy.
Did anyone learn anything? Or is that just Kyle talking really fast for another 45 minutes?
I learned a lot. I learned how to do the pop bumper install.
Okay. What about everyone else?
Better or worse than the roller games one? Roller games one seemed easier.
I'm going to wash my hands.
I don't know why.
This is what your hands look like.
You don't need to wash your hands. We're going to do the Q&A. We're about an hour and a half in, so we're going to do a quick Q&A, and then we're going to be done. He went to go wash his hands. We like dirty hands. Yeah, let's just zoom in on Time Warp. So, while he's washing your hands, just for a reminder, oh, is it today? Today, I believe, Bells and Chimes, one of the Bells and Chimes groups, is doing a virtual pinball tournament. I remember looking at it and being like, oh, that's PinTech Live Day.
Now I can touch my crazy hair because my hands are a lot cleaner. Wow, that took an hour and a half? That was pretty thorough, I guess, huh? Or I just worked really, really poorly.
I feel like we could have easily named this episode something funny with pop bumpers and time travel.
Well, I mean, I guess
focused on that the whole time, but
I did most of the tearing in off camera, right? But
yes.
Let's see if they work. Hold on. Nothing exploded. So that's good.
Yeah, let's get the money shot. Let's see if the pop bumpers are all working.
Sure.
And
here.
Then we'll go into our Q&A.
We got 5 of them, all on display here on Time Warp. It needs to see a ball to start. So again, if we have these adjusted well, that one's not. You see how much force it takes? There's dead spots all over. The only place it's working is if I hit it at like 12 o'clock, sort of. So that's way too loose. That one's nice. It's got good action all around with just
If it's way too loose, where do you go to tighten it again?
You're going to adjust the switch, right? Sorry, it's probably loud. We need to adjust the switch to make the switch a little closer to the spoon. So we'll look at it. Maybe we'll do that while we're Q&Aing. That one's pretty good. This one's great. And this one. Okay, so 4 for 5 is pretty okay. We could see. Hey, don't do that. Do some action. Yay! That's better than nothing.
Nice.
Oh, I don't want it to hit that, or light bulbs, but you know, whatever. It's so entertaining. Anyways. That's it. Pop bumpers are fun. There is an art to doing them in the sense that you have to be meticulous, unlike I was, and I didn't notice one had a broken switch, and I didn't adjust one very well. This one actually might be decent to show on camera before we do a Q&A, just because it is on the side of the game. So let's see. Game is off. You always want to do this with the game off. You know, you might feel really confident adjusting a pop bumper switch or a switch with the game on, which is sometimes okay, but you have solenoid voltage here very, very close to your switch matrix, and that causes pain. The switch matrix works on like 5 volts, and you're introducing 40-something volts to it. You blow chips in the switch matrix. So this is best to be done with the power off. Can we see the gap right here? Is that visible?
It's gonna focus. It wants to focus. Maybe put your hand behind it.
I can't really. Oh, here.
Yeah, like that. There you go. Yep.
Can you see that upper switch next to the spoon? It's hard to see because there's not a lot of light in here, but there's maybe a 1/16 of an inch gap, maybe just a millimeter or so. But what happens is when we try to activate the spoon, it just does not touch without really grounding it out. Now, I am noticing while I hit this bumper, it is actually making okay contact. So I think we have a combination of a switch that's adjusted a little too open, but also a switch that might be a little dirty. I'm going to put the camera down. I'm going to get my flex stone really quick and very gently. I am going to close the switch using the spoon, the skirt, and just rub the flex stone through to rub off a little bit of dirt. It's a very dusty area. Pop bumpers generally get very dirty because there's a lot of action going on there. And if the dust builds up on the head of the switch, it doesn't want to work. You don't get any contact. I'm going to adjust the backing blade ever so slightly to try to close this gap just a teeny bit. It's a very precise measurement. Again, the difference in adjustment between like pop bumpers with action and pop bumpers that suck is like not much. It's a very fine adjustment, but it's very rewarding to get done because who doesn't like pop bumpers? Most people don't. I just do. Anyways, it'll probably be fine now. So.
Awesome. Those little details are really important.
Whew. I don't have any voice anymore. Jeez.
All right, well, take a breath. Take a drink of your seltzer water that you can put in your Pin Buddy contraption later on once you install all of those. And let's open up Q&A for the next 10 minutes. Does anyone have any general questions for Kyle while we have him here, kidnapped and trapped in the Marco Pinball studio for PinTech Live?
We didn't even get to put the bananas on. It makes me sad.
We didn't even get the bananas on. I know. We'll talk about doing that next week. Maybe that will be its own special episode.
It'll be the final episode. We definitely want it. We're going to do drop targets next.
So next week, we will do drop targets. Those drop target banks need some love. And we are going to show how to... Are we going to be replacing the boards on those drop targets or just cleaning the targets off?
We're just going to clean them and tune them. There's no need to replace these because... Well, I haven't seen them, but they're clean. This game's pretty clean. You don't really need to replace them unless you have some really screwed up ones, and I don't think these ones will be.
So just a little cleaning and maintenance and best practices for this era of Willliams is the System 6 drop target banks. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
so
basically...
Everyone that's following along that works on the same types of stuff as we are, like we had a few people in the chat, Kyle, that were also working on their games and their pop bumpers. So next week is drop target week, y'all. We're going to all be cleaning our drop targets together.
That's right. These ones are particularly awful. Willliams did a bad job with drop targets for a really long time. And then by about the time like Black Knight came out, they were pretty good. I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with the story of Firepower, and Steve Ritchie saying that, the stand-up targets should have been drop targets, but they just didn't perform well enough, and you'll see why when we take those things apart. They're a pain in the butt.
Yeah, for sure. So WRP41 on Twitch asked, what if the pop bumper is well adjusted but does not register points? Where's the problem?
Depends on the game.
Good question.
If it is like this game or an older Williams game, I don't know when they changed the design. I'm going to guess a lot of Williams mechanical devices changed around the time of High Speed, the first System 11 game. But if it uses two separate switches, one to fire and one to score, you have a dirty switch, a switch with a broken leaf like this one, a wire that has fallen off. There could be a lot of things, but if it is a Williams game like this, check the scoring switch first.
Nice. Makes sense.
Do all of them have one, two? Yeah, there's only one that's broken. Okay.
And Hado J, I like that. Hado J on Twitch says, I have a completely unrelated question.
I like those.
I have a Data East. Ooh, I can't pull it out of my head this fast. BTTF. A Data East. Batman.
Oh, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. That's what I said.
I hate acronyms. They drive me nuts.
I love it. It's like my brain instantly freezes. Oh God, it's an acronym. What does it say? Data East, Back to the Future. That was a good one.
Cool game.
That's missing a playfield hinge that I've been unable to locate a replacement for. Suggestions on what to replace the original one with. Dang, I have the same issue with my hard body playfield hinge.
I don't know. I don't know if we have those in stock, but you know what? I have. What? Yeah, take a picture and send it in. So Data East did a bad job giving part numbers to things in the cabinet. That probably has a part number, but take a photo and send it in. And if we don't have that part, I probably have a game of similar vintage where I can have one remade. I have a Simpsons, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what's that game called? Monday Night Football, all sitting in this room. So if I needed to get one of those made for you, I could go get that done. It would probably take, the turnaround time would probably be about a month or 2 months to get it, possibly. But yeah, send me what you have and I'll try to find a part number and we could get that remade if we don't have it. That's a part that's probably missing on some people's games, not just yours.
Nice. Nice. For the WPR41 about the pop bumper not registering points, that was a question specific to Bally Old Chicago. If that changes your answer at all.
Yeah, well, so since that's an electromechanical game, you've got a little bit more complicated of a circuit. And I don't want to say it wrong because I don't remember how Bally ran that circuit, but generally on electromechanical games, either the pop bumper is, we're going to call it like a direct drive. You've got voltage going to the switch, and as soon as the spoon closes that switch, you're connecting actual voltage, which causes the pop bumper to fire, which might close a scoring switch. Or your pop bumper, when the switch closes, will activate a relay, which is most likely what's going on. I know that's how Gottlieb did it. The small switch that the spoon closes activates a relay. That relay closes, fires the pop bumper. When the pop bumper reaches its end of stroke, there's actually an end of stroke switch, which releases that relay. On that relay, there will be contacts to fire the pop bumper and also score or advance something. So I'm pretty sure Bally used an end of stroke switch and a switch that activates a relay. So you're going to want to look on your relay itself to see if you have a dirty switch. If you are not familiar with doing these things or adjusting relay contacts or cleaning relay contacts, just be very careful because you can screw up all sorts of other bits of logic in the game by fat fingering a relay. So just be gentle, but that's most likely it. I can't wait to do EMs with all of y'all. That's going to be fun. I love electromechanical games.
Wait either. Yeah. Colin Baxter asked, he was on the phone for work, so he was asking, did you show how to adjust the spoon and switch to make it more sensitive?
I didn't because it's hard to capture these things on camera without you know, having someone really close and well lit. And since I do have a camera person, but we are trying to be physically distant because I'm not wearing a mask in the studio. He is 8 feet away from me right now. It's hard to show, but what I'm going to say, like, let's just kind of go through it, right? The most important thing is you want to make sure the skirt is in the center of the spoon. You don't want the skirt sitting off to one side really far. You know, you want it to be in the center. The spoon comes to a kind of a point. Most pop bumper switches, I have one right here, it's staring at me. This is a Willliams one that has the exact switchblade that I need. Here, let's switch to the small camera since it's really close to me.
Okay. We did this on roller games, right? I now remember.
Yeah, I did. It's again though.
We had to do really zoomed in, and yeah, you see the little spoon.
This stuff though, it's so much easier to do on the bench, right? So put it on the small camera if you would. I'm gonna move my iron onto Mars Trek. So check this out. This is your switch stack, okay? This is your skirt. See how it kind of comes to a convex point in the center there? What you want to do first off is make sure that the skirt is sitting in the center. That way, whenever it gets a slight movement, it's going to be inclined to move the switch. You're going to get better action that way. You need to make sure the spoon is separate from the switch, right? You need to make sure that this switch is adjusted nice and tight up against the spoon. That way, you have good constant pressure, right? So this thing, every time this moves just a millimeter, it's going to force movement of the switch. But you also have to make sure that this thing isn't really pushing up against the skirt, because that will also cause this to not want to move at all. There is a fine line between too tight and just right, so find it. The next thing to do is, again, we're just looking to find the space here where when this moves just enough to be able to fire the pop bumper. So you've got another blade here. You've got your, again, spoon, top blade, bottom blade, and you've got a tensioning blade here. What I'll generally do is I will use my fingers to pull these apart gently, right? We want to move them away and give it some gap. And then we will try to adjust this tensioning blade here with your switch adjuster gently to try to get the gap to be just enough to where a good slight bounce or a hit on that skirt will close the thing and cause good pop bumper action. But the first step is to really make sure that this thing is centered correctly and you don't have a hole. It is very common, especially on old games such as this, right? Anything really older than 1984, that you don't have the skirt that has worn a hole in the spoon and it's just sticking through. I've seen that many, many, many times. Then it's just, again, just a matter of getting these just the right distance apart.
Nice. That's such a cool contraption.
Yeah, it's crazy. The scoring switch thing is annoying. The reason this is broken, again, is since this rides along with the pop bumper yoke, I mean, it's constantly being and they snap. It becomes a weak point. I don't know why. Maybe it's just part of Willliams' architecture at the time where they weren't able to also register a solenoid hit like this to count as points. That's probably what it is. But I'm not an engineer. I don't know.
Nice. Colin, you gotta work on your Rocky and Bullwinkle pop bumpers then.
That's a great game.
And then report back.
Yeah, let me know if I helped you at all, or if I'm just flapping my gums.
And speaking of which, you helped us last week a lot, and I don't think I've received an email from you. I wanted to send you some swag. So send us an email to marcotv@marcotv.com.
Oh yeah, you were like, hey, open it with the door off so you can do the memory protect thing. So hey, our door
you
open.
Helped us. Yeah, shoot me an email. Maybe you did, and it got lost. Please do it again. I have not forgotten.
Yeah.
Oh, Danajel says, I had Technoplays X-Force Pinball.
Huh.
This game has 4 interactive pop bumper targets. Very interesting and fun game. I've never even heard that. That sounds awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, weird Spanish stuff. That's what I'm really into right now. Like I've said before, the Spanish and Italian games are just super rad. Yeah.
Yeah, Colin, please resend it. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think for helping me get over that on camera, you might be elevated to friend of the show, Colin Baxter now.
Yeah, and Colin, also, you need to move from YouTube to Twitch, man. I think you're the only one on YouTube.
Oh yeah, let's make sure we say that again.
Oh, CNK, welcome. Okay, hold on. Let me go back for a few more questions. We have a couple more minutes here. DeWis, what is up? Any chance Marco will try to get replacement ramps or aprons, which are currently hard to find? There are a couple other companies making ramps now, but I was curious if Marco has any plans to offer those replacements as well.
We do. We work with a lot of those companies that reproduce ramps to sell them on our website. There are a few small-time ramp makers. There's the fella, I won't give away his real name, but FreePlay40 on Pinside, who's great. He makes some good quality stuff. And then I know that there's another fella that I saw on Facebook touting that he's been making some stuff too, and I'd like to get a sample. I wish that those guys had a big shop and they could make ramps in the quantities that we need to buy them in. But hopefully, I mean, one day, I always like to reach out to these people to see if they'd want to be able to supply us with some of these things. The thing is, they're kind of like a cottage industry, and they kind of make things on demand. And generally, we need to buy things in the dozens at a time. So when it comes to aprons, though, you know, it would be great to make all this stuff, but they are very expensive time sink style projects. And you know, it's hard to satisfy. Like me, right? If we remade an apron, I'd want it silk screened, right? The way that they originally were, the way Bally did it, the way Willliams did it.
Yeah.
You know, some people might just be happy with a decal. You know, okay, decal's fine, but you know, I would prefer it to be one way. So sometimes it's hard to satisfy everyone's desires when it comes to those parts, but they are very complicated, and and a lot of these aprons are also not one size fits all, which is difficult, right? You know, it depends. Hopefully one day when these things are very, very much needed, we can start offering something like that. But right now, there's a lot of small parts that are a little more valuable to spend my time on getting remade. Yeah, if that kind of answers the question. Sorry.
That was a good answer. Midge is over here answering all your questions for you in nice, short, and sweet versions.
I'm a little bit long-winded.
For our subscribers, thank you for subscribing. Totally not necessary, but we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We do have a new emoji. I don't know if anyone's noticed. It's called the Steve Brogy.
Let me see. Oh, that's rad.
This is made by Paul. He's one of our owners. Awesome. Yeah, look at this Steve Brogy.
Oh, that's so
Paul
cool.
made this in honor of Midge, who has been working with Marco for many, many, many moons. I guess a decade now, right? And we are lost without Steve Brogy. So we immortalized him in a Twitch.
That's awesome.
Emote.
Steve's
it's
super
like
rad.
His long hair, but then also his handlebar mustache, all like flowing together in this epic. Oh my gosh, Pin Daddy, that's awesome. He gave him little fire hands.
Oh hell yeah. Oh, that's so rad.
That's great. So yeah, that's our new emoji. And also too, there's a hack. So if you're not subscribed to us, but you want to like take advantage of our cool emotes that we make every once in a while, there's this little like pinball at the bottom of the chat that says like channel points. And I guess the more you chat, the more you collect these imaginary channel points. And then you can do stuff like unlock a random sub emote and stuff. And I do that on other Twitch channels that I go to too, to kind of interact with them with their emotes, but it's just a fun.
It's the funnest part. But
Pez Johnson's got it.
Yeah, that kind of segues into something I want to like stress one more time. We will be switching to streaming this program only on Twitch in the near future. So if any of y'all are still using Facebook or YouTube, please go to twitch.tv, make a free account, and then subscribe to Marco Pinball. That will allow you to get notifications when we go live, and you will be able to enjoy or keep up with the fun on that platform. It uses a lot of really There's just a lot more fun ways. You can use Steve's sweet emoji if you subscribe to us. If you do subscribe, it's like, what, $5-6? That gives you access to all these fun emojis. But it also goes to support this show in the sense that we can buy better equipment to continue. We're almost on our way to another camera, so we'll be able to have 2 really nice cameras. But yes, we will be continuing only on Twitch. So if you want to continue interacting with us, you have to go to Twitch. So
yeah, and there's another hack too. If you have an Amazon Prime account, then you get 1 free Twitch subscription a month.
Oh yeah.
That's how I do it.
And that still goes to support us, which is really cool. And we feel honored that you would do that for us. So we're hoping to get back into the swing of doing more streaming. It's been, since I've been working at this other arcade trying to get all their games working and nice, I haven't had time to do the after hours stuff lately, but we will try to be online more for y'all, because I really enjoy hanging out with everyone. I'll probably be doing another repair stream this Saturday. I know I bailed on a couple weeks ago, but this Saturday I'll absolutely be here fixing another Willliams game. We're going to work on Flash. Get that sucker running for a customer of mine. So
that'll be a fun one.
Yes, please join. It'll be fun.
Dirty. I'm gonna make it good. Awesome. Everyone's unlocking the Kyle now.
Oh gosh.
ICDU asked, when can we expect the magnet cup amulet and wristband combo set to be available on the Marco site? I know that wasn't that gonna be awesome if you have a little magnet bowl for your wrist?
That would be fun. After I finally actually get down to like start making bent screwdrivers, I'll start getting magnet bowls, and we'll start selling them on a sweet like brass chain or something. That's gonna be awesome. Actually, I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna show up one day in this dumb shirt and have that magnet thing around my neck, and everyone's gonna be like, "Dang, that guy's really lame." That's I don't think the boss will let me make that one, sorry. But I'll make one for myself, why not?
Dude. All right, any last final question of the hour, and then we're
keep them coming,
out and getting back to work.
Everyone has to stay here and keep doing this with me. So if you keep asking questions, I don't go anywhere.
Kyle's all comfy, and he's like, keep asking me questions. And we're all here behind the screens being like, I'm hovering over that end stream button. I'm just kidding. We love hanging out with all of you, and thank you so much for joining us every Thursday. That's awesome. Make sure you take advantage of that 24-hour free shipping code that's in the chat. PT-TIMEBOMB.
Time bomb.
Because Time Warp is the profit. Time bomb.
And everyone should tell our new camera guy how great he's doing actuating the camera.
Yes, actually, Ryan, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, Time Bomb, and for the 3rd time, remember, go to Twitch, make an account, click follow. Hopefully we will be able to give you some warning before we switch to exclusively streaming on Twitch. But I just want to make sure we don't lose any of you guys. So please give it a shot.
They already make the magnetic wristband, and it's called Your God Strong Magnetic Tool Wristband Holder. And it's like a wristband, and it's magnetic, and there's screws all over it.
Yeah, but that thing's all getting in the way when you're like wrenching on stuff, right? If it was hanging around your neck, you just can't lean over and let it swing. It was like, this is a much better place to keep your magnetic bowl, close to your heart.
It would have to be like a chest strap, because if it's swinging, dude, you like it'll swing and get caught on a pop bumper, like coil, and then you'll lift up and then you rip everything off.
I had a GoPro necklaces. I had a GoPro chest mount harness for when I would go dirt biking. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my GoPro chest harness thing, figure out a way to get a GoPro mount into my magnet bowl, and I'm going to mount it to my chest. It's going to be super lame, but everyone's going to love it. I'm going to start a revolution of something.
I'm still wondering, like, all right, I'm doing some tweaking. I'm holding this coil while tweaking. Oh, I need to get a screw.
It'd be like this, and you need to suck to it and stuck.
I grab it, and I put it there, and then I'm here. Or I have to go all the way down here and back.
Man, don't hate on my dreams. I'm coming up with great ideas here, and you're just like shooting them down, man. Not cool.
Oh, baseball caps to mount on the underside of the bill. So you can accidentally like get the screws like looking at your eyeball.
Yeah,
Someone's
I think
like,
we're
"Hey,
trying
dude,
to
what's
reinvent
up?"
the wheel.
Hits the top of your lid, and then it's just like, ah. All right. Well, thank you guys for the awesome show. We're gonna sign off now, and we will see you next week where we go back to Time Warp and work on some drop targets.
Yeah, we'll probably be able to finish Time Warp next week unless the thing just like catches on fire for some reason, but I'll try to make sure that we just do drop targets and put those banana flippers in, and then we could start time warping or something.
We got in, that was such a beautiful outro, Kyle, but then we got in one last question from Initiative 837, and I'd hate to leave them hanging.
Ha!
Maybe we were
No,
off
go
topic
for
a
it.
little
Ask
bit.
the question.
Okay. My Black Knight 2000 has a separate score switches on the upper playfield pops.
Okay.
One of them doesn't score 100% of the time if it is rapid firing against a rubber. Is that a software thing that prevents the crazy scoring?
Probably not. It would be a hardware thing because the processor couldn't keep up with looking at the switch hit, but that's also not likely. If it doesn't score 100% of the time, short the wires against each other, right? Start a game and very carefully get like a needle nose screwdriver and touch the green wire to the white wire and see if it scores, or put it in switch test or something like that. You know, if you can short the switches out and you get action, then that means that the computer can read it, right? Again, you've got a switch column, a green in a color, and a switch row, which is a white in a color. If you short these things together using a pair of needle noses or like a alligator clips or something, if it scores, that means that everything from the switch backwards is fine. It very well could be a problem with the switch. It might be a little dirty. So it depends on how you want to troubleshoot it, right? Go get a business card or a small file, a Plastone, Flexstone, and drag it through. Make sure there's no dirt in there. If it doesn't work, at that point, short it together and make sure the circuitry behind it is okay. There could be a lot of things, but that's where I'd start. It's not likely you have a switch matrix problem, but it could be. Food for thought.
Yeah.
But that's crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't realize like all the System 11 games were even like that also. I guess the WPC games were the first ones to not do that. I'd never really paid attention to that. That's bad.
Nice. You said thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and could also have a loose soldering joint on one of the switch wires.
Yeah, or a diode that fell off or something like that. But it's most likely a dirty switch. That's where I'd start, right? Always think about a problem as the easiest and quickest solution to fix, and then you won't get stuck in a rabbit hole.
For sure. All right, so for our Twitch audience, so we call you, right?
Oh yeah, it's raid time.
We're gonna raid.
Who are we raiding?
I want to raid Chrome Candy Pinball because he is playing Stranger Things, which I enjoy.
It's a great game.
Did I tell you I have a Stranger Things now, Kyle?
How'd you get that? What?
I'll have to tell you.
Oh my gosh.
But the UV kit for the upside down is seriously every time it happens in my dark basement. I don't have a basement. In my dark garage, I'm just like, whoa!
That's so cool.
So maybe he has
I love
a
that
UV
game.
kit. Let's
Brad.
see. So we're gonna raid him.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Until next week.
And
Raid.
Are we done?
Oh, look at that truck.